Welcome to another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Jitesh Ramakrishnan, and we're going to be bringing you the usual recap, but this time in the playoff edition. Wildcard weekend is in the books, and certainly very exciting stuff going on in football. It was a great weekend for me, obviously. As a Giants fan, it was so funny that both the Cowboys and the Eagles lost, and not only lost, humiliated themselves and got blown out. And while the Eagles one was kind of expected, the Cowboys one was completely surprising, and the whole country
I
pretty much
I
loved
don't
that
even know
one.
if
So
I don't even know if Packers fans were expecting them to win. I mean, then again,
probably not.
then again,
Maybe
Green Bay
some.
had then again, Jerry
Green Bay
World
has
has been
Dallas.
no Green Bay no wait Jerry World has been a second home for Green Bay Packers since 2011. I mean, every time the Green Bay Packers have played in Jerry World since
Mm,
Super Bowl 45, they've been victorious. They're now 6-0 in Cowboy Stadium. So.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Including Super Bowls and like everything else. So I mean, yeah, playoff games. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so we'll definitely talk about that. But I mean, why don't we start with the other Texas team, the one that won on Saturday and is going to be moving on to the divisional round. Houston Texans taking down the Cleveland Browns in pretty dominant fashion. Behind a great performance there by C.J. Stroud, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kind of cooled off a little bit with a couple, 2 interceptions, two pick sixes. But still had a decent game, 307 yards. But I mean, the Texans completely outmatched
It
the
was a
Browns, ran away with that football
it,
in the second
it
half.
was a really great game for the first half, and then
It was,
and then
yeah.
and then Houston just took over. I mean,
Hmm.
listen, I mean, I know, like last week, like I said, like Cleveland was going to take it, but at some point the pixie dust runs out, and Cleveland is literally down like pretty much all their actual starters. So the fact that they got this far, it's quite impressive. Of course, Flacco's back-to-back pick sixes didn't exactly help the cause for Cleveland, but I mean, like seeing as what Cleveland was able, seeing what like you know the talent that was able to be extracted when they were starting backups, third stringers, and fourth stringers. Not a bad place to be, Cleveland. Not a bad place, except for one thing, and the one question that has been going into the last season that will be approached again this season: quarterback. You got a guy out there with 230 million guaranteed, who's going to be going into his third season, but throughout the first half of this season, he's been at best slightly below average. That's the best term we could use to describe him.
Yeah. Hmm.
And now you had a 38-year-old grandpa lead you to lead you to the playoff promised land, who in all likelihood should win comeback player of the year. And so this brings up questions for Cleveland. Like, I mean, really the one question they have is that quarterback, because like Deshaun Watson, like even when healthy, hasn't really shown Cleveland like
Right.
that that he was the same Deshaun Watson of the Houston Texans a few years ago. He hasn't really shown that. I mean, so, it's going to be an interesting offseason for Cleveland when it comes to this. Maybe they'll invest a little bit more in linebackers depth. They could have used it when CJ Stroud was dicing them up last week.
Yeah.
I mean, not last week, a couple days ago. But I think like out of all the teams that have lost in the wild card, out of all the teams that have lost in the wild card right now, Cleveland is in the best position out of the remaining five. That's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the search that they have, very solid defense, great offense. They have great pieces. Yeah, if they can figure out the quarterback situation, and yeah, I mean that's kind of what they have to figure out because what Deshaun Watson hasn't exactly proved it. Do you bring back Joe Flacco maybe as a backup? Maybe let him play as a starter. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, but they have other guys in the mix too, like DTR. So that'll be interesting to figure out. And then, David Njoku's obviously very good. The deep, Miles Garrett. I mean, very dominant. But I mean,
Here's what I
yeah. I
wonder.
mean, right. Yeah.
Yeah, here's what I wonder. Like in the midst, I mean, of course, like you can't really expect an entire team to be completely ravaged of injuries and still like play pretty competently. I mean, that's what happened to the Ravens a couple times over the past few years, where literally their entire team was in the hospital. Same with San Francisco, and they didn't exactly like have the same performance as Cleveland. But like, it's I I wonder like, what if Cleveland didn't let Jacoby Brissett walk last free agency? You could argue they would have been completely fine if Deshaun Watson
That's fair.
but still was still out for the rest of the season with a shoulder surgery, if I remember correctly. And Jacoby Brissett is right there. You could argue the Browns would be just fine. So it'd be interesting to see if Jacoby Brissett was the one who was the quarterback here. Of course, like they'd have to trade for him now since he signed a multi-year deal with Washington. So now it's kind of interesting to see what it'll be kind of interesting to see what the Browns do with their quarterback room, because I mean we haven't really heard any speculation on Joe Flacco retirement rumors, but there's that possibility. He's 38. We don't know what their plans will be in the draft because Houston owns their picks for the next 2 years, if I remember correctly, because of the Deshaun Watson blockbuster deal. And free agency wise, the quarterback market isn't really. I don't really think it's all that hot right now. I mean, the biggest name right now is Kirk Cousins, and he's coming off a ruptured Achilles. So we'll see what Cleveland does.
Yeah. Yeah. All good points about the Browns quarterback situation. Yeah. I mean, I guess for the Texans side, the pass to Brevin Jordan was nice. One took all the way to the house, and not Deshaun, Dalton Schultz, great acquisition as well. I mean, and of course Nico Collins, Devin Singletary, they've been playing great for the Texans. But I mean, really, CJ
Right
Stroud
now,
in this season.
of course, right now the biggest problem for the Texans is that Noah Brown is out for the remainder of the playoffs because of injury. So the wide receiver room just got even thinner for Houston. But hey, the greatest paths to adversity, it makes an even more compelling story. So we'll see what CJ's done. We'll see what CJ and the Texans can do. I mean, they've already. I mean, no one going into the season thought the Texans would probably win more than 6 or 7 games, and boom, they won the division. They've completely outmatched. They completely outclassed Cleveland, and now they're going up to Baltimore. So let's see what
Yeah, it
happens.
should be a good one. I feel like they might have more of a chance than people thought before this week, but we'll save it when we get to the picks, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it could be at least a competitive game in Baltimore, if nothing else. Yeah. So I guess going on to Saturday night, Dolphins Chiefs.
Yeah. All right.
And
I'll
this
take
one,
care of this one. So in the live stream, in the streaming service wildcard game, where pretty much every single NFL fan was pissed off thanks to the NFL's greed for trying to make everyone watch the game through Peacock. Safe to say that game is definitely not worth the subscription. It's very safe to say that. Extremely like, especially between two teams that have such high caliber in offense. Like, I mean, Tyreek Hill did get his revenge touchdown for the Dolphins, and pretty much nothing else happened for the Dolphins. The Dolphins couldn't run the ball. The Dolphins couldn't pass the ball. The Dolphins couldn't play defense. The Dolphins couldn't do anything. Mike McDummy shows that he's a stupid and useless head coach. But at the same time, I can't completely fault the Dolphins because they were without five of their starting defensive players, including Jalen Phillips. That's a big name right there, coming off the outside. So the Dolphins were down there. But at the same time, and yeah, I mean, of course, going into the playoffs, you can't make the excuse saying they were playing a top tier defense, because Kansas City's defense has been carrying the Chiefs this entire season. Like that's not even a contest. So, but surprisingly, the Chiefs offense did just enough of what it needed to do. And Rice, I mean, you could
Rice.
definitely argue MVP.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you could definitely argue MVP of the game for the Chiefs. You could definitely make that. You could definitely make that argument. Personally, I would maybe give the MVP of the game to L'Jarius Sneed, because aside from that one Tyreek Hill
Oh, he
reception,
completely locked up
he
Tyreek Hill,
he was
yeah. Mhm.
yeah he was completely locked up. So I would I would consider giving it to L'Jarius Sneed, maybe even Nick Bolton, because
Mhm.
he's able to lead the linebackers charge, and Raheem Mostert,
Yeah,
and then Achane, they couldn't really get anything going on the run game, and Mike
right.
McDaniel's still kept calling stupid play calls, even when the Dolphins really could have used, oh, I don't know, competent plays. And of course, we saw Patrick Mahomes' helmet like partially break. I don't think that's ever happened
Oh,
before in
yeah.
NFL history. So that,
I don't
hey, you
recall,
make
yeah.
history somehow.
Mhm.
But
Right.
aside from that, like
Yeah, and then
my I'd say takeaways from this game. I mean, listen, the Chiefs did what they had to do. That's what you have to do in the playoffs. So and they're going on to see an old friend of theirs in the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo.
But this time they're
In
going to
Buffalo,
Buffalo.
yeah,
And
should be an interesting one
as
for sure.
for
I'm looking forward
yeah,
to it.
as for Mike McDommie and the Dolphins, well, Cancun is a bit of a journey from Miami, but you know, you guys are used to making long journeys and having no effort. So that's the journey you made here all the way up to freezing Kansas City. So why not take that
Yeah,
why not defrost a bit in the heat of Mexico? Why not?
exactly. Yeah, I guess on the Chiefs side, great win. Nice to see, I guess. Because they've been struggling all season, even though they've kind of been able to keep a decent record while doing it. But good
Listen,
game
in
from
the playoffs,
Mahomes, good game from
yeah,
Pacheco, good game from Rice, good game from the defense. They're trying to find their rhythm and at the right
yeah,
time because the Bills
yeah. I would
isn't going
just
to
say it
be an
was
easy
good
team.
games. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would just say good. Like, there's nothing extraordinary about
Yeah, it
any
wasn't like
player on the Chiefs.
exceptional, but it worked out well. And I mean, it came
Actually,
together. There was no like
no,
head scratchers, I guess, you know
Maybe
what I
Rice
mean?
was exceptional. We can
Yeah,
probably say Rice
that's
was
fair.
exceptional.
It's
And of course,
yeah,
wait,
yeah. Oh
and
yeah, I would say so. 130 yards,
yeah,
touchdown.
one more name
Mhm.
we gotta say out for the Chiefs. Like we said Pacheco, we said Rice. One more name that probably flew under the radar of that game was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, former
Hilaire,
no,
yeah.
I mean not former first round pick. He was the first round pick for the Chiefs
He was the
back
first
in
one pick,
2020.
yeah.
And of course, Pacheco took his starting job, but Clyde
Yeah.
Edwards-Helaire still like he had some very physical downhill runs, and
Yeah, I saw that. I
that
noticed.
yeah, that was wearing to Miami's already porous defense. So you know, Andy Reid can the old frozen mustache. He can still scheme. So
Oh yeah.
going into next week into Buffalo when they see their favorite team from the AFC East, it should be a fun contest.
Yeah, definitely should. Another game in the series of Chiefs Bills. Chiefs have a 2-0 playoff lead, but the Bills have had their number in the regular season, but not no playoff games between the two in Buffalo. So I mean, obviously, should be an game.
All right,
Yeah, Clyde
I'll
Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, taking
all right.
over. I
Tell you
guess
what.
kind of
I
still showing he can run. So that's good to
Yeah.
see as well behind
Tell you what. I
Pacheco
will
because it
let
used to
you.
be Hardman. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean not Hardman,
I,
the other guy, but I can't even remember. But yeah, it's a good
Damian
second guy for
Williams,
sure. And
because
then Snead locked up.
Hardman's a wide receiver. You
Yeah,
thinking of
no,
Damian
I'm thinking
Williams?
of someone else. No, there's another Chiefs running back that like was
I
like
assume you're not
kind
talking
of
about
paired
Jamal
with like
Charles.
Pacheco.
Oh yeah, it definitely wasn't Jamal Charles.
Jarek McKinnon, but he's on injury. He's on IR. I thought he was like a pretty decent
Right,
second back too.
right,
Yeah,
McKenna.
yeah. But on IR. But anyway, moving on, I guess.
Yeah, tell you what,
To
I will let you have first say on this next game. I know you're dying to talk about it, and I'll follow up.
all right. Okay. Well, Packers, Cowboys. what else can I say? But how about the Cowboys? But like in all seriousness, like what happened? Like all of that talk about this going to the NFC Championship game, and oh my goodness, like
It's the
it's hilarious.
Cowboys,
It's
man.
like the same thing that happens. It happens every year. Like even when people think they can make a run, they can't make a run. And at least in most years, they're competitive in the wild card round. This year, they weren't even that. Like I mean, the Packers outmatched them. Love had a master game. I'm kind of following in that Packers quarterback. Following Aaron Rodgers' footsteps there, being the Cowboys. I mean, pretty efficient, 16 for 21 with 272, 3 touchdowns. Romeo Dobbs, 151
He and
touchdown.
CJ
Aaron Jones,
Stroud
118
basically had identical stat
touchdowns.
lines.
Yeah,
Jordan
pretty
Love.
much. Yeah,
I think Jordan Love missed CJ Stroud's stat lines by 2 passing
total
yards.
yards, I think. Right. Wow, that's great. Yeah, they just both look so good. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it was bad. And the 32 that the Cowboys scored, that was like 48-16 with 6 minutes left. So that was all garbage time scoring there. So Dak threw 2 interceptions. The playoff lights got too bright once again. But I mean, what's worse though is the Cowboys defense. Like at least the offense like tried to like stage a
What
comeback. Like the
defense?
defense didn't do anything. Yeah, I mean, they were leaving the Packers receivers so open. They were like the only thing like on the TV. Like it was just like there was no defender like in the area. Like it was that bad. Like I mean, you know what I mean. So like as bad as like Prescott was like with the 2 picks and stuff. Like the defense I think deserves more of the blame for that because they did not help out at all. They let the Packers get to that 20 what was it 27-0 lead, and at that point
27
I mean the
zip.
game's already over. But even in the second half, when the Cowboys were trying to make some sort of a comeback, I mean, they left the Green Bay receivers so open, they scored more easy touchdowns. So like, I mean, like, what are you gonna do, right? But no, I mean, it was just great. It was great to see. The whole country was laughing at that. But I mean, seriously, like this year, like the difference between the Cowboys and the Eagles is that the Eagles were going in the wrong direction, and even like their fans kind of knew they were going to lose, and like the thing was going down. But for the Cowboys fans, like people really thought this was their year to go to like the NFC
Here's the thing.
Championship game.
Listen, here's the thing. Listen, like to be fair, even I thought the Cowboys would break through and this time get to the NFC
Me
Championship. So
too. That's like me
I'm the
too. I wrote like an
but
article
but
about this, and I had
but
them
to
going
be
to the
fair,
NFC Championship game.
the Dallas Cowboys fans have been beating their chests saying the same nonsense since 1996 when they last won their ancient Super Bowl. And they've been saying this every January. Like literally every
Yeah.
January. Well, when the team made the playoffs, I should say. But like it's almost remarkable how consistent how much the Cowboys are consistent when it comes to January failure in the 21st century. It's almost remarkable. And
Yeah.
MVP of the game, no doubt, goes to Mike McCarthy, still proven to be a excellent head coach for the Packers. I'm definitely not saying that with any sarcasm whatsoever. And
Yeah.
I mean, here the Cowboys, like with this loss, like if you had at least won by one possession in a competitive game, so be it. At least you know you guys can probably run it back pretty
Right.
comfortably next season. But you got your doors blown off, and
Yeah.
don't let the two touchdown don't let the two possession score at the end of the game fool you. Like Dallas was outmatched
Mm-hmm.
from the opening drive of the Packers. Like they were outmatched. I mean, of course
Yeah.
Dallas punted on their first possession, so you're like, okay, get a feel for the game. Of course, Dak throws a pick on the second one, and the Packers make it 14 zip. Like, okay, let's see what happens. You can play like trash for the first quarter or so, but what the Cowboys did was beyond egregious, and this leaves you with
Yeah.
more questions than answers. Is Dak the guy? But really,
Yeah.
my best question, my pulsing question: why hasn't Mike McCarthy been fired just yet? Like, even even if you're like aiming all your gun, even if you're like putting all your chips on the table for Bill Belichick, which is a fairly probable move if Jerry Jones were to do that. Like, and even though like personally, I think Mike McCarthy should have been fired at halftime. But like, I'm saying, like, regardless of like, he should have been fired directly after the game. Like, the fact that he is still here, despite the fact that the Cowboys should be searching for a head coach, it tells you one thing. Jerry Jones holds on to consistent failure for too long, and I mean, it's hard to say that he's afraid to make changes when he fired Jimmy Johnson and replaced him with Barry Switzer, and they still won a Super Bowl. Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw Jimmy Johnson's halftime like fiery rant on the
Yeah,
Cowboys.
yeah,
That was epic.
yeah.
That was epic.
Yeah,
But so
yeah,
it's hard to say that Jerry Jones is afraid of making changes he clearly has when he clearly has the ability to just swap a head coach out. But would Jerry
right.
want to change out his franchise quarterback and then change another coach, then change coordinators, everything? Like,
Yeah,
would
it
Jerry
might be
Jones do
worse
that?
for them if that's the thing.
Yeah, so
I don't know. I
that's
mean,
what
I feel like it's something you gotta get tired of, like this kind of thing where they win in the regular season a ton and then they lose in the postseason. So I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe they make a
Also,
change with
also,
McCarthy at least. I don't
the,
think with that. I mean, yeah.
yeah, and this is the first time the Cowboys have lost at home since the opener of the 2022 season when Tom Brady came down to Dallas and beat them.
Yeah.
This is the
Mhm.
first.
That's another thing. Like
So
they hadn't lost a game at home all season, also most of last season too. It's been like, yeah, since you said that. I didn't even realize it went that far back, but I mean, I thought they would be fine. And they clearly weren't. But I don't know. It's just weird because it feels like they just had like a really good thing going. They had a good roster this year. They had 2 home games. Like it felt like they couldn't really screw it up, but of course they did because they're the
I assume you're
Cowboys.
not
But
complaining.
you see, like no, of course not. Yeah. Just yeah, it's disappointing for them, but it's pretty funny for like probably the other 31 teams. I don't think anyone else is complaining either, but especially NFC East fans had a good weekend with that one.
No,
Especially I guess
this is
non-Philly, non-Dallas
no,
NFC East fans.
even
A
if
great
even
weekend.
if Philadelphia no,
Even the
I
Philadelphia
think
fans were laughing at that one
no,
for
I'm
sure.
saying
Yeah.
even if Philadelphia wasn't in the playoffs, you Washington and Giants fans would all happily high five each other in the bar watching the Cowboys lose. I guarantee that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely would. It was just so funny. Like I just couldn't believe like not only were they losing, but it was just like the way they were losing, like the pick sixes, like it was just a complete disaster, and it was just the Skip Bayless video of like him throwing the clothes, like everything about that was just like so
He does that every
funny, like
year.
all the memes that came after that. I know, yeah, but it's just Stephen A video. It was just like a field day on Twitter and Instagram every group chat, like, cause like, I mean, yeah, the rest of the East basically just combines to like them. So I mean, yeah, it was a good one. But I guess going into the night game, that was
Well,
actually
if you
also a
want to
really
talk
good
about an
game.
actual good matchup, if you want to talk about an
Lions
actual
Rams,
good matchup,
yes,
this was
that was the game of the week.
epic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
this should have been
ultimate
this should have gotten the 4:30
ultimate
slot,
duel.
but the Cowboys will always take that one.
Oh, yeah, it's national TV
And
Cowboy slot.
Detroit,
But yeah, hey, look, I mean, yeah.
Detroit Lions, congratulations! First playoff win in 32 years. Amazing.
hmm Yeah, no, it's been a
And
long time coming for
ironically, that
these Lions.
ironically, if I remember correctly, that was also against Dallas, like that playoff victory, 38-6. And
Yeah, yeah, wow.
is this karma because the Detroit Lions got screwed over in the Cowboys game
Could be,
a couple of weeks ago?
could be. So now who's hosting their second playoff game? It's just like so perfect too. Like, yeah, I mean, now the Lions will get to host the game. Dallas doesn't even get
I'll
there.
I'll tell you
I was
I'll tell
thinking
you it
the
was
Lions
perfect.
had a second chance at the Cowboys, and that would have been
Yeah,
good if the Lions came
yeah.
in there and beat them
I'll
and
tell you
sort
it
of
was
like got
perfect.
revenge.
I'll
Maybe
tell you it was
better.
perfect. The lines in the red zone, their conversion and execution, that was perfect. And especially when that was pretty
Mm,
much all the offense the Lions would muster in the first half, their defense held strong. Like, which I was a bit shocked at that because Detroit. We saw Detroit over almost this entire season. Like their defense, like their passing defense hasn't exactly been the best. They've had a good running defense. I mean, Dallas was able to. I mean, Detroit. I wouldn't say they're able to contain Kyron Williams, but they're able to limit the damage and force the Rams to open up more of their schemes. I mean, of course, Puka Nacua still torched the line secondary, but Puka Nacua has torched pretty much every secondary this past season. So, but I was very surprised that Cooper Kupp was not really all that involved in the game plan. I was fairly surprised at that. Of course, he did have targets. He did have targets, especially that one time late in the game in the red zone when he got a one-on-one matchup. But the ball was a little too far away for Cooper Kupp to complete the pass. But I mean, of course, Puka is going to be the number one target. That's not a question. But I'm still surprised Cooper didn't see that many targets in his direction. Of course, Stafford got a very warm chorus of boos coming back to Detroit. I mean, here's the thing. I could see why Lions fans would boo him or cheer for him at the same time. Cheer for him because he's been with the team for 12 years, but boo him because one, this is a new playoff enemy, so you should forget about all the nostalgia, and two, Matthew Stafford didn't exactly do anything brilliant for the Lions. Not even one postseason win. I mean, of course, you can't really fault that to Matthew Stafford, even though he had Calvin Johnson there most of the time. But it's because the Lions had a very trash roster most of the time. So you can't really fault Matthew Stafford there. But at the same time, and also Matthew Stafford got a Super Bowl ring courtesy of the trade. So it's about time Jared Goff, got his revenge on Matthew Stafford and company. I was so happy to see Detroit win this game. And I don't think the Rams are in that bad of a position coming off this loss. I don't think so. Maybe the Rams and that's since they have a first round pick this time, first time since I believe 2017. I mean, I think the Rams' best move. I think they're completely fine on offense. I'd say your best move either draft. I'd probably go with the cornerback for a draft. That's what I think. Especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown bringing hell all over the Lions secondary.
Right. Yeah. That'd probably be a good idea. Especially, it seems like they're kind of missing that guy after Jalen Ramsey left them. But the quarterback duel in this game, or even Marcus Peters, Matt Stafford
when he was with the Rams a few years ago.
Yeah, him too. But I mean, I was impressed. I mean, Stafford had a great game, despite falling short. I mean, he threw a sidearm. He had 367 for 2 touchdowns, and Nacua 181 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, he's been a beast. And you're right about Cooper Kupp. I thought they kind of become they be a double-headed monster because Cooper Kupp, not too many years ago, won the Triple Crown. Still a very good receiver. Lions did definitely limit on the ground with Kyron Williams, and then Montgomery Gibbs. They had okay games, and Jared Goff played a great quarterback game of his own, 22 for 27
in the first half. In the first half.
In the first half, exactly, and then mostly in the first half, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown got a lot of his targets. Josh Reynolds also at 80. So, I mean, they got Gibbs involved a little bit as well. So, I mean, kind of a mixture. Sam Laporta on the touchdown where I think Decker reported, or one of the linemen reported as eligible again, which kind of threw back to the game a few weeks ago. But gritty win at the end. The Lions held them off too. Wait, what?
Isn't that the Lions playoff hashtag going into this game? It's hashtag all grit or something. So it fits.
Something like that. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, it was a gritty win by them. At the end, it was definitely a battle. The Rams were down 1, but the Lions punched through. And I mean, it might not be a great a big fan of Superfan NFL, but I mean, Detroit is Eminem City, so I mean, I thought that was kind of cool because But in any case, like that's like a real life super fan who is from the city, cares about the
Well,
team and stuff like that.
here's the thing.
And
Here's the thing. Like Eminem was only shown once the entire game on there. Taylor Swift is shown a million
yeah,
times in the
exactly. It
fourth
wasn't
quarter.
even like it wasn't even exactly. Yeah, there's a difference here, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's the interactions are good and all. It's cool to see people into the game like celebrities and it gets more views and all, but it does go a little bit too far, I guess. But I blame the camera operators and not
No,
Taylor Swift
no,
because she
no,
has no
no, no.
control over that.
No,
So it doesn't
show the
but
celebrity.
like
No, no. You show all the celebrities' faces just once, like before the game
once,
starts, or
yeah,
even
maybe even two
or
or three times,
no,
but not like
no,
50
no, no,
times.
no, 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 no,
Not them
not that.
Slack
Just
surfing, although
no,
that was kind of
no,
fun. But like,
no, no,
yeah,
no. Only
anyway,
once, either just before the game starts or
only
just
one.
barely into the game. Show the camera on their stupid faces just once and focus on the rest of the game. That's what football fans want to see. That's what much. I mean,
Yeah,
what 100 million fans
they
tune
really
in
overdid it
plus.
with the Dolphins Chiefs. So yeah,
Yeah,
hmm
overdid is a complete understatement. They just slathered her face every 3 seconds on the cameras. I want to watch the game,
yeah, especially in the
not
NFL
watch
game.
yeah, I want to watch a game. If I wanted to watch Taylor Swift, I'd go to
Mhm.
YouTube and watch a Taylor Swift video. But I would never do that because I have respect for myself. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
You should
Anyway,
no. This ranges across all celebrities: Taylor Swift, Eminem, Samuel L. Jackson, Morgan Freeman, Keanu Reeves, Denzel Washington. I don't care. Leonardo DiCaprio, whoever. Show their faces only once, either just barely before the game is about to start or just barely into the game, and focus on the game for the next 58 and a half minutes. No one cares about these celebrities
yeah,
when it comes to football.
yeah. It's not what
No
we're
one
there to. It's not what
cares.
exactly. Not what we're there to watch. I mean, it's like yeah, like you said, it's nice to see, but then the focus should be on the game. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I guess going back to the games, Steelers Bills, this a game that they had to spend hours cleaning the stadium to get ready, and there was snow in the seats, not on the field, and it
No,
started out as a kind of
listen,
a blowout, but
listen.
the Steelers made it.
Like I'm not shy about my hatred of the Buffalo Bills, but I can't deny every time the Bills scored a touchdown, it was really cool to see those fans just like toss a bunch of snow in the air. Like
I know it
I
was
thought
it
that
was
was
so cool
really
seeing them
fun.
throw the snow. I was like, yeah,
And
yeah,
I will say
definitely.
I'm surprised Pittsburgh only lost by 2 touchdowns. I thought they were going to lose by a lot more,
Yeah,
especially with, but the
me
Bills
too.
offense decided to like shut off to start the second half, and Pittsburgh had to pretend to do this thing called playing football. So and somehow they're able to do that. But um, it's not even about the loss. Like, here's my thing with Pittsburgh. Like, it doesn't even have anything to them squeaking into the playoffs when they. I mean, I can't really say they didn't deserve it because Jacksonville completely collapsed. But um, here's the thing with Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
They are very stagnant as an organization. Like you could see over the past 5 years, like you can argue Pittsburgh has made zero. No, not even argue. You could say Pittsburgh has made zero progress as a franchise. Zero progress. Like Tomlin put out the quote a few years ago: "The standard is the standard," and that's what we've seen with Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, he has his overrated streak of 17 seasons in a
not
row
losing
with a
season.
winning record, and that's the standard the Steelers are comfortable with. That's the standard not only Mike Tomlin, that's a standard Art Rooney is comfortable with. The Steelers as an organization never change. Like we've seen this with ownership, we've seen this with coaches. They've had three coaches within about 5 decades. Three coaches. So like Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin. The Steelers don't change anything within their organization, and then they wonder why they can't really do anything. Like it's no mystery. The Steelers are consistently mediocre for a one reason. That's because their culture of mediocrity is their standard. And even if they had TJ Watt healthy for this game, they still would have lost. That's not even a question.
Yeah. I mean, I think that definitely hurt them. But I mean, yeah, the Bills were definitely the better team from the get-go, and they went up 21-0, and I thought it was over. But they blocked the kick. Steelers, they got in good field position, scored again. They made it interesting. It was what, 21-17, I think, or something like that, or 24-17. Bills were up a touchdown. I mean, final score, but like. Yeah, but didn't the Steelers come back to like 21-17 or like something like that, or 24-17? I think it was 24-17.
24.
And then they couldn't. Yeah, 24, and then they couldn't get the tying touchdown. But yeah,
I would argue like the Steelers. I would argue the Steelers losing the wild card, if as an organization they ever decide to wake up, would be the best thing that would happen to them. Because if they had beaten the Bills in advance, forget the Steelers fans. The Steelers organization itself would have deluded themselves into thinking they're Super Bowl caliber, when everyone and their mother knows the Steelers are far from that. So if the Steelers clean house,
kind of like the Giants from I guess.
No, if the Steelers clean house, or like maybe not even clean house, just make some damn changes, this loss would be the best thing that happened to them. Going back to this, like the Steelers and the Cowboys are nearly, you could almost argue they're nearly the same franchise over the past 5 years. Very stagnating culture,
Steelers,
highly talented, highly talented, definitely potential to make a deep run, if not go to the Super Bowl. But they have this culture. They have this culture standard of mediocrity, of underachieving, of a lack of discipline. Like really, the Dallas Cowboys are just the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Los Angeles Clippers of the NFL. Actually, no, I take that back, because the Leafs broke their streak of first round ineptitude last year, and the Clippers made it to the Western Conference Finals 3 years ago. So actually me taking the name of the Clippers and the Leafs in vain is a grave insult to them when comparing them to the Cowboys. But the Steelers and the Cowboys for the past 5 years are literally the same team. Like a complete, I would say like the Steelers are loaded, but they definitely have capable talent, and everyone knows the Steelers and Cowboys are storied franchises. They have the caliber to go deep in the playoffs. They have the caliber to basically, do things, but they don't. They underachieve every January, and they don't make changes because they are completely fine with being mediocre. Although I think maybe this time Jerry Jones might consider doing some renovations to the Cowboys, maybe. But remains to be seen with the Steelers. But I personally don't think the Steelers will change.
Probably not. I mean, it seems like they're accepting of the standard that it's good enough to get a winning season no matter which teams you lose to in the process. And, because that was pretty embarrassing. But I mean, they, to be fair, I mean, they, with Mason Rudolph and the quarterback this season, I mean, to even win those last 3 games and get to the playoffs, I feel like it was pretty impressive. And, I thought they were done for, and they played a pretty competitive game.
Yeah, that last win you're talking about, when the Ravens were literally playing their second and third strings.
The other two. Yeah, that one didn't really count.
You mean also the win where the Bengals were ravaged with injuries and playing a backup quarterback?
Yeah, well, I mean, Browning's been good most of the other games, but
and the Seahawks, who are coming off abysmal stretch of playing some of the most talented teams in the league. Like, you're telling me that 3-win streak was impressive for the Steelers? See, that's the thing. There, that's the Steelers mindset right there. That right there. They're like, yeah, we got the 3-win streak to sneak into the playoffs. Like, we should be fine. They have that mindset. they have this drone-like mindset of not wanting to change because they're afraid of change, and that's why the Steelers won't do a damn thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now they need to get that mindset fixed because
But
that's
they
not going to
won't.
cut it. I mean, if they want to stick to what they are, then they can. But yeah, they're not going to advance in the playoffs with that kind of a
Speaking of
mindset.
not
But I mean,
advancing,
quarterback.
I'll let you take the reins.
Yeah, I guess switching over to the other side of Pennsylvania, the Eagles, I think were way more disappointing than the Steelers were. Completely collapsed,
And
but
and
I
in my
think the
opinion, more
difference is,
disappointing than the Cowboys as well.
yeah, like, yes and no, because like I feel like it was expected for them because but their whole season as a whole, I think was the most disappointing because you start 10-1, you look like the best team in the league. You come back, you beat the Cowboys, the Chiefs, like the Bills, and overtime thriller. Things are looking good, and then one loss to the Niners, like, okay, but then the losses just kept piling up, and the performances got worse and worse. Suddenly, the defense, like kind of completely went away. I mean, there's holes all over the place. I mean, the way
I think the
those guys are
Cardinals
yesterday.
yeah I think the Cardinals comeback completely broke the Eagles. Like everything was fine
Yeah,
until the Cardinals came back and broke them.
yeah, yeah.
That's
I
when the
mean,
Eagles went into a
yeah.
tailspin.
I think that's when it officially broke because I mean, before that was kind of like a rough stretch, and then I mean, Seahawks, that wasn't great. The Giants, like they had that game and they almost blew that one too. Like the Giants by kind of with their own mistakes, which that was. But the Cardinals like beating them, yeah, that
Yeah,
definitely did officially
I'll tell
break
you
them. They
which team
also
didn't
dealt with
make
some good
mistakes.
Giants over
Yeah,
the Bucs.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
which team did not make mistakes. That was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield played like a man possessed, and James Bradbury was effectively
um,
burnt toast throughout the entire game.
yeah. I can't believe
Whenever
how
the ball was
badly
thrown at.
he
No,
missed
the
tackles. Just
no,
like
like the only time
also
where an
hurt.
incompletion was registered during James Bradbury's coverage of wide receivers was when Mike Evans dropped that go ahead. Was when Mike Evans dropped that potential
Yeah,
touchdown pass. Other than that, he was roasted like a turkey right on the open flames by the by Baker Mayfield and company. Todd Bowles looked like a defensive wizard um,
hmm
against a struggling Philadelphia unit. Of course, Jason Kelsey's retired, so that's one more thing Philadelphia has to think about. They will not
yeah.
have the same cap flexibility as they had last time,
Well,
and especially with Jalen Hurts' massive $255 million contract coming to effect this off season, Philadelphia is going to have some very
yeah,
tough moves to make, and especially with what's his name, AJ Brown deleting all of his Eagles like
Museum.
posts and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
boy.
then again, wide receivers do this. Like, it's not even just wide receivers. Players do this stuff all the time, where it's like they just delete like
Right.
media of the
Yeah.
team and stuff, and then holding out for a better deal. I mean, of course, I think AJ Brown is in his second year of his $100 million contract. I believe so, or maybe it's a third year. I don't know, but I don't think AJ Brown is going to go anywhere. And Devonta Smith, I mean, Devonta Smith had a pretty good game, especially that
He did.
bomb,
Yeah, he did.
especially
That was
the
nice. That was a
was it
nice
like a
catch.
60-yard that 60-yard pass or something like that. And of course, like this is one of the first times the Eagle signature move failed them. The good old
I
tush
know.
push
Yeah.
failed. Here's my question: when the Eagles got that touchdown, when the Buccaneers were up 16, well, they weren't up 16. Why were the Eagles going for two when they had nine? Like, I do not understand. Like, what the hell's the advantage of having it at 16-11? Uh,
Well,
ver- I
yeah,
don't
versus
I don't
16 to
understand.
10.
No,
Well, I think it's
Sirianni
just because they got the yeah. I think it's
no, but
just because they
Sirianni
thought
got way
that the
too
team was
arrogant.
just automatic.
I
Oh
think
yeah,
he got
no,
way
no,
too arrogant. But no, like I
yeah,
mean, listen, you miss the extra point, so be it. You're still
yeah,
down by a touchdown. Like you make the extra point, well, it's still a one possession game. But in what world does going for two in that situation make any sense? Like if it was 16-14 and you're trying to go for two to tie it up at 16. I could at least understand that, but
Right, right.
and I mean, so I don't really understand what Nick Sirianni was doing. Um, of course, now the Eagles understood how they managed to so-called win a Super Bowl against us a few years ago. Um, that's because Matt Patricia is ruining our defense, and now Matt Patricia has done the same thing here. And Eagles fans, I
Mm,
imagine, are not as in favor with him um, as they were
mm.
6 years ago. So, hey, we tried to warn you, Eagles fans. We tried to showcase to you how pathetic Matt Patricia is, but not my problem.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, well, it's not my problem either. I'm very happy, but yeah, I mean, Buccaneers just completely dominated on both sides of the ball. Baker Mayfield had a great game. The Eagles offense kind of, they say the thing about Jay Gruden that was pretty funny about like if I ever treated any
Oh
Washington
yeah,
any quarterback, I was like, ooh.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
both, I think RG3 responded. People are saying the same thing about Alex Smith. It was just like the whole
Yeah,
thing. But the RG3 response got
that
everyone
was
fired up. That was
interesting to
hilarious.
say the least.
Yeah, coming from him. Yeah, it was pretty funny, but I mean, yeah, that's like I guess how bad the Eagles' offensive line play was. They were still kind of hanging in there though, but then in the third quarter, I think everything kind of broke away with that safety, and then from there, and then the Trey Palmer touchdown. Yeah, just good times. Good
And
times. It was
Chris
funny.
Godwin had a nice
Yeah,
touchdown
Chris
too.
Godwin got a yeah right at the end of the game there to kind of ice it for good. But
Well, Chris got a
yeah,
win.
good job. Okay. Yeah, and Rashad
All right.
White had a pretty decent performance on the ground. But yeah, good job for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We knocked off Philadelphia. I think people had kind of expected it, but yeah, once again, I mean, I had a field day with it. The funniest thing was seeing. Well, there's just so many memes, but I mean, I guess like when the Trey Palmer touchdown happened, I think like some Giants podcast was doing like kind of a reaction video to it, and it was pretty funny. But and they kind of did like they kind of like pretended it was like a funeral for the Eagles, and they started like playing like the funeral music, and that was like the funniest thing. But anyway, I guess fly Eagles fly into the off season, so I guess my job is done being on those two teams, and now I can kind of just enjoy the playoffs and you know be. I mean, I think I do a pretty good job being objective when I need to be, but now I can really just be objective when I watch the games too. But yeah, I mean that kind of brings me to my next point. The divisional round. Let's preview the four
All right.
matchups, and then
I'll
I guess
make
we can
I'll
wrap
make my
it up.
I'll let's see. So Houston is going to be visiting Baltimore, and of course, weather is of course the primary factor. Um, and I guess this is what the Terry Pagula of the Bills owner he was coveting for a dumb stadium for the Bills in 2026 or so. So especially given this past snowstorm, but uh, let's see, going into Texans versus Ravens. Um, we've seen this before where the Ravens were just red hot, and then they get stomped, ironically, by an AFC South team that's going into the playoffs red hot. We've seen this before. The 2019 AFC
Yeah, I
divisional round
remember that. I was
where
surprised. I was very
where
surprised. Yeah.
Derrick Henry turned Earl Thomas into going into running in the wrong direction. I still remember that play. But
Yeah, I
uh,
remember that game, and I
uh,
was like, "Oh yeah,
here's the
Baltimore's
thing.
gonna be so good this year."
I don't think I think the Texans, especially with the loss of Noah Brown now. So of course, uh, like Nico Collins is going to be the primary target for the Texans, and of course, given the injuries and uh, the fact that Houston doesn't have really a sufficient run game to try and create plays for the pass. I think Nico Collins is going to be heavily guarded. CJ Stroud may not have the best game, and the Ravens win by 10 points. That's my pick, but still an excellent season for Houston regardless. Um, let's see, Packers, 49ers, a few old friends playing each other yet again. Of course, the Packers might be the most dangerous 7 seed of all time right now, given how badly they they manhandled the Cowboys, but um, I still trust San Francisco to get the job done. It's not going to be like, San Francisco wins by like 20 points or something like that. I think it'll still be maybe at best like a two possession game. I see, I see, I see Green Bay jumping out to an early lead, but San Francisco climbs back in to tie it by around the third quarter, and then they score a bit more to close the game out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, something like that.
see, Bucs Lions. You could almost argue this would be the most interesting matchup of the divisional round. I mean, of course, there's Chiefs Bills coming up, but I personally believe that Bucs
Oh,
Lions would be the most interesting because the Bucs offense is red hot. Detroit doesn't have a great passing
mm,
defense, but Detroit's offense is red hot right now, and they are cooking. And the Bucs
yeah,
have
could be.
one of the best secondaries in the league right now, and and the Bucs have one of the best linebacking cores. I mean, of course, with Levante David and Devin White there as your primary linebackers, they can make pretty much any team's offense a living hell. So I think this one be interesting. I think Detroit's Cinderella stories. I think Detroit's Cinderella story continues with a narrow victory, and they're on to the NFC Championship game to face the Niners and Chiefs Bills. I think now,
Um,
I as I mean, here's the thing. I really don't want to pick a winner for this game because I hate both teams with a passion, but I think the Bills win this one. The Bills win this one in a gritty and grind fashion. With Josh Allen, using his horse-like legs to power the Bills in their running game
mm,
to finally surpass the Chiefs in the playoffs. Of course, maybe all they needed was just to be at home for once to play the Chiefs in the playoffs.
could
But
be.
I mean, we've seen over the past few years that Buffalo has been the one team that is really consistent in being able to limit Kansas City to what they are. And that's in spite of all the injuries Buffalo's had on their defense already. So I think the trend continues, and Josh Allen will go to his second ever AFC Championship game. Those are my picks are the Ravens, the 49ers, the Lions, and the Bills. So I guess all the home teams.
Yeah. All right. Well, guess I'll go. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much mostly on the same page with you. I think Ravens will take it. At home. I feel like this is a different Ravens from the one a few years ago. That defense is outstanding. The offense, Lamar Jackson's playing wonderful. They got a great supporting cast, great running backs, great receivers, a whole bunch of great linebacking core. I was just like looking at that roster, but I mean the way they've blown out contenders, the Niners, kind of like a blow. I mean the Dolphins, but comfortable wins against two of the best teams in the league. Like if this Ravens team, like this, as long as they don't like collapse like they did a few years ago, like I think they'll be good. That being said, I think the Texans can give them a game after what I saw with the Browns. CJ Stroud will go off, but it's not going to be
And,
the same that happened against Cleveland. They'll be away, and they're going to be challenged much more offensively. So they're not going to be able to run all over or pass all over the Ravens. So I'm going to say Ravens take it, but it could be closer than people think.
yep, yeah.
Onto I guess Packers. Wait, what? Yeah, do you have something?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I agree. Like, probably going to be a lot closer than what people think. Like, I think at most, like, I'll probably go like a 10-point game at most.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I feel like the Ravens will kind of eventually wear them down, but kind of like what you were saying about the Niners, I guess. But and speaking of that, second pick, Niners, Packers. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take the Niners. I'm kind of same thing. Based on what I've seen over the season. I guess aside from the Ravens game, they've been pretty dominant. But that's a really good Ravens team. The Packers, that was an impressive win against Dallas, but the Niners aren't going to collapse like that on either side of the ball. They have way too many weapons. Great defense, great offense. McCaffrey, Juszczyk, I mean Debo. I mean they're just absolutely Ayuk. They're
Ayuk,
absolutely loaded. Ayuk. Yeah, exactly. George Kittle. I mean, so been pretty except for that one game, I guess. But as long as he plays, clean game, I think Niners should get a win. Packers could keep it close, like closer than people think again, but like for the first half. But I think the Niners may pull away in the second half. It's not going to be the same thing like we saw last week. Kind of the theme here with the one seeds, and then Bucs Lions. Buccaneers played really well against Philadelphia, but they couldn't tackle. They couldn't really do much of anything on either side of the ball. The Lions, different team, different hunger. Um, you know, yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Lions are going to edge them out, though. I mean, they've been playing,
The
really good
the
football on
the
both
Lions
sides, and
offense
yeah.
the Lions offense needs to solve two primary problems. The I guess the tertiary problem would be Antoine Winfield Jr. But the first two problems are Levante David and Devin White. If you're able to get them
Mm,
off their game somehow, if that involves scheming with Montgomery, with Jameer Gibbs, with running shallow crossing routes with Amon St. Brown, doing diagonal cross patterns with Sam Laporta, the Lions definitely have a very
mhm.
good chance. But if Devin White and Levante David are able to remain rock solid as they normally are, it's going to be very, very difficult for the Lions passing attack to get going.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, Tampa Bay secondary there. So I mean, yeah, they gotta they've got to limit, I guess, Detroit in that way, and Detroit's got to be able to overcome that secondary, especially like all those guys you just mentioned, Winfield and all of them. But the offense is flowing. I mean, Kate Otten was catching a lot of passes. I mean, guys were catching a lot of passes, and
Kate
they've
Otten balled yesterday. Kate Otten balled.
yeah, he was like catching so many passes and getting so many first downs. Now at critical moments too to really keep the drives going and picking up extra yards. Like that was impressive. But I feel like it's gonna be different when the Bucs go on the road to Detroit. But I think kind of like the Rams game, it's gonna be kind of like that. But kind of a tough game. Like the Bucs aren't gonna be an easy out as we just saw. But I think the Lions have enough, to overcome it and move to their first NFC Championship game in quite some time. So that'd be very exciting for them. And then I guess they go to San Francisco if my predictions hold up. And then final game, Chiefs Bills. Oh my goodness. I could see the argument for both sides. I don't know. Like I feel like the Bills could get it at home, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like I saw the Bills kind of like their weaknesses against the Steelers, and like that was like the Steelers the way they are. Plus, they're dealing with a lot of injuries in the secondary. Plus, I feel like the Chiefs are finding their momentum at the right time. And in the last matchup that the last matchup that the Chiefs barely even won. Sorry about that. Excuse the interruption. But as I was saying about the Bills and the Chiefs, I feel like even in the last matchup, the Chiefs were without a lot of their best defensive players. They're without Nick Bolton. They were without Isaiah Pacheco, and they still almost won the game this time around. This time around, Kansas City is gonna be completely healthy. I think they'll be able to get the win. I think Mahomes is gonna be able to win on the road for the first time, and it's going to be a close one. Josh Allen, the Bills are going to be ready to go, but I feel like with all the weaknesses the Bills just showed last week, I think the Chiefs could kind of exploit it just enough to edge them out and set up an AFC Championship matchup between Chiefs and the Ravens in Baltimore. So it should be a very good game. The game of the weekend. I'm definitely really looking forward to it. I would not be surprised at all if the Bills were able to flip the script on them. But yeah, I mean that's gonna do it here for this episode of Sports Five. As always, you know, keep an eye on for future episodes and another great weekend of football to discuss next week. So see you then and enjoy the start of the new semester.